Welcome back, everybody. It's Zach here, bringing you guys another fantasy football video. By request from one of you guys, I'm going to be doing a 10-team PPR draft on Sleeper from pick 7. So hopefully you guys find this useful. I've been doing a couple half PPR drafts. This will probably be the last 10-team draft that I'll do on Sleeper. I'm going to move over to ESPN, Yahoo, get you guys some more mock drafts on different platforms so that you guys can sort of see how I approach things differently on each platform. But unless you guys do have any specific requests, I'm always happy to cater to you guys and get you guys a mock draft out there so you guys have something to go off of. But really enjoying making these. It's a lot of fun. They're super quick and just really fun to sort of iterate and see what kind of teams we can build. And I'm enjoying it a lot, and hopefully you guys are enjoying these too. So, yeah, as far as 10-team PPR goes, we are starting 2 flexes in this league, so I will be leaning towards receiver a little bit heavier just because we can start up to 4 and we're in full PPR. Picking from pick 7 is actually, in my mind, one of the best spots to be drafting from because you're pretty locked in to get one of those top 3 running backs. Really great spot to be drafting from, and just really excited to do this mock. So, yeah, we'll start the draft here, and I'll talk through my thought process and all that as we go. And if you guys do end up with any questions or anything, just let me know in the comments. Starting things off here, things are going pretty chalk. We see McCaffrey, CD, Tyreek, Jefferson a little bit early. Then we saw Amon-Ra and Bijan Robinson go. So the one thing that I'll note that was a little bit different here is we did see Bijan go a little bit earlier. Normally you'd see Breece Hall go a little bit before him, and then we saw Justin Jefferson go a little bit early as well. I wasn't anticipating Ja'Marr Chase being here. I personally would have taken Bijan over Ja'Marr Chase, but I won't take Breece Hall over him in general, just because I think that Bijan is my RB2 right now. I just like the offense a little bit more confident in what they have going on in Atlanta. And I'm a little bit worried that we're going to see a much slower pace of play in New York. The one concern I do have with Ja'Marr Chase here, there is always a little bit of the concern in the back of your brain that he's still holding out with that contract issue. There are rumors out there that he won't step on the field without a new contract. I know he's asking for that new contract a year earlier than typical, so that's something to keep in mind. It's not at this point going to make me shy away from drafting him. I'm going to take that gamble. It's the same thing with like CeeDee Lamb. I'm not afraid of drafting them because of their situation. I'm just okay with them maybe being moved down one slot lower. So like I would take Amon-Ra ahead of Chase. I would take Tyreek Hill ahead of CeeDee Lamb, but nothing's going to like drastically change my opinion on these guys. So I will take Ja'Marr Chase here. I'm hoping we can pair him up with another great wide receiver here in round 2. My eyes are on Marvin Harrison, and it does look like Marvin Harrison made it back around to us. And the one thing I'm going to highlight here is that Kyren Williams is another great selection here. I know we saw a bit of a run at running back. We saw 4 running backs go, and normally that's generally a decent indication that you should maybe be looking to shy away from the position. But personally, I actually have Kyren as my RB4, so we'd be getting him as the RB7 off the board here. I have him ahead of Taylor, Barkley, and Jahmyr Gibbs at this point, so it's something that we want to consider here. One tip I always give people is that it sort of makes sense to go ahead and look at what your next selection is going to be. It's going to help you sort of identify what you're looking at. So if I do take let's go all the way down here. We're going to look at pick 27. Running backs available there, we're looking at like Josh Jacobs, Isaiah Pacheco. I like Pacheco quite a bit, but if I'm stuck with Jacobs, or I'd be okay with Achane or Henry, but I wouldn't necessarily bet on those guys being there. So Pacheco would be the only running back left that I'd be comfortable with as my RB1 going after that. James Cook, Rachaad White could get those guys later. At receiver, around pick 27, I don't really love the options here either, but I do like Mike Evans quite a bit. I like Nico Collins. Those are guys that I feel comfortable with. So that's sort of a tiebreaker for myself. 2 guys that I'm going to feel really confident with on my roster at the receiver position, and I'm a little more hesitant to draft one of these running backs later on. So I'll go Kyren here because I'm more confident that I'm going to get a good receiver in round 3. That's going to help me feel really comfortable knowing that I'm not just completely tanking my RB1 spot here. And Kyren's a guy that I'm super high on anyway, so I don't feel like I reached or anything. He did come to me at a reasonable draft spot. And right here, so we saw a couple reaches. We saw Josh Allen go a little bit earlier than normal. Mike Evans went ahead of us. But I think actually we've got a couple of options here. For me, we'd be looking at the running back position. Isaiah Pacheco would be a really strong consideration. He's someone that I'm expecting to have a really solid year this year. At the receiver position, I like Nico Collins and Deebo Samuel quite a bit. At the quarterback position, I'm not willing to take one of those quarterbacks this early in round 3, so I think I'm going to be leaning towards taking just the best player on the board for myself, and for me, that's going to be Isaiah Pacheco. I know I said I was going to lean wide receiver heavy, but I always want to still make an effort to take the best player on the board. Our next selection will be at pick 34. I still think we can get a really good receiver there. We can probably get Deebo or Nico or even Jalen Waddle, who I'll be super satisfied with. So we'll go Isaiah Pacheco here. Really feel like we can sort of ignore the running back position the rest of the draft as well. Always sucks to see a bunch of receivers go off the board after you take a running back, but the good news here is I'm still really satisfied with Jalen Waddle as my wide receiver 2. It's a really easy pick for me to make here. So really satisfied with the start here. We've got Jamar Chase followed by Kyron, Pacheco, and Waddle. So we're balanced so far. We've got 2 really star wide receivers and 2 stud running backs. I feel like that's a really good start here. At this spot, we can take into consideration the potential of taking a tight end or a quarterback for myself. Really sucked seeing Trey McBride go 1 pick early there. I would have loved to take Trey McBride here in round 5. He did not quite make it to us. So we got a couple options here. If we want to look at the receiver position, Devonta Smith, Tank Dell, George Pickens, those are some of my favorites here. I'm a little bit less optimistic about guys like Zay Flowers. So those 3 receivers are solid options. At the running back spot, we did see James Cook slip a little bit. He is a personal favorite of mine as well. We would be looking at starting 3 running backs in this lineup. I'm not opposed to doing that. I think that's a really solid option still. I know I said we were going to lean wide receiver heavy, but James Cook, he's a PPR monster. He's going to catch a ton of passes, so I'm not afraid of that. The tight end position, we could certainly look at going Mark Andrews or Dalton Kincaid. I view those guys really similarly, and I think it's maybe possible that one of those guys makes it back around to us with our next pick. I don't like taking the second tight end here. It feels bad having missed out on Trey McBride and then just taking this, the consolation prize there. And at receiver, Devonta Smith would be my pick here. Looking next round, we can still get Tank Dell. I don't like any of the running backs left on the board after that, though. So I think I'm going to go James Cook. Hopefully we can get one of those tight ends to make it back to us. That'd be awesome. If Mark Andrews could just maybe squeak by, but we didn't get that lucky. That's okay, though. I was going to be super satisfied getting Tank Dell here. It's going to really balance out the roster. We'll have 3 and 3. Really just guys that I'm super confident in, and I'm going to feel really good about that starting squad at the position, like the skill positions. Now we've just got to build out the rest of our starting lineup. We are obviously okay taking high-end bench players as well if we want to. Up to our next pick here. Second highest player on board by ADP here would be Evan Ingram, and he is a guy that I'm really excited about this year. So given that is a positional need, that is certainly something we're looking at here. If we were going to look at running back, it would be probably Najee Harris would be my favorite running back left on the board. Not really super stoked about anybody else here. I like Mostert quite a bit, but it's early for him. Tony Pollard's growing on me, but I'm not super interested there. At the receiver position, it would probably be Rashee Rice or Calvin Ridley. Jaden Reed would be in consideration as well here. But I think because the tight end position is getting a little bit thin, I'm going to snag just a guy that I'm going to feel really confident in and get Evan Ingram, especially in a full PPR where he should see a ton of volume and be a really solid option for us here. So we got Ingram. The next thing I want to just keep an eye on is what our quarterback situation is going to look like. I don't need to take a quarterback here, but it's always nice just to keep an eye on that. Dak would be the next guy off the board here. If we take a look at the quarterback spot, there are 3 quarterbacks left, like always, that I love. There's 10 quarterbacks for me that I'm super comfortable with, and then even beyond that, I think you could consider Jaden Daniels as an option. But for me, what that generally means is that in a 10-team league, I kind of want to be the last team in the league to take a quarterback. It's rare that you're going to see teams take 2 quarterbacks like early on in the draft. They'll need to fall for people to make that happen. So in a 10-team league, I'm generally comfortable being the last one to select a quarterback. It's going to give me still a guy that I'm super confident in, and I'm spending effectively nothing on it. So not going to take one of these quarterbacks here. Probably looking to see who the next best player on the board is, and for me, the next best player on the board is actually going to be Calvin Ridley, who I'm actually pretty stoked about this season. I think he's in line for a big year, and I'm becoming more and more optimistic about this Titans offense. So we'll go with Ridley. We'll see how things go here. We saw Dak go off the board, so that means just 2 quarterbacks left that we're satisfied with. We just got to keep that in the back of our minds here. All right, so we got it all the way back to us. Kyler's on the board, as is Jordan Love. If we take a look here, there's just one team between us that doesn't have a quarterback. That's because 8 of the other 9 teams have quarterbacks. I'm going to wait until my next pick here. I'm okay with either one of those guys. There's not a huge tiebreaker for me. Taking a look beyond that, we don't need a tight end here. We've got that settled. Looking at the running back position, a couple options that are certainly in consideration here. I'm a big fan of Brian Robinson, although that seems like a bit of a reach at this point. Another option here would be someone like Zach Moss, although that seems a little bit early. Jonathan Brooks is someone we could look at just because he is a guy that I think will be really useful in the back half of the season, and we've got 3 running backs already, so drafting him as my running back 4 is something that I'd be comfortable doing. But at the receiver position, I think there's a couple better options here. For me, Christian Watson's a guy that I'm super excited about, as is Deontay Johnson. I do want to note that Deontay just came back to practice today with an injury and then limped off again with another injury. It sounds like neither of them are serious, but it is something we want to keep in mind. But at this spot where he's my wide receiver 5, I'm comfortable doing that. I think he's got a really solid path to being really relevant, especially in a full PPR. So Deontay's going to be the pick here, even though he's a little bit banged up. saw Kyler Murray go off the board. I'm not going to risk it all the way around. If there was somebody that was like really standing out to me that I wanted to take, I would maybe consider risking it to see if there was going to be a team that was really going to consider taking a backup quarterback. I don't think that's going to happen here anyway, but because there's nobody that I'm like dying to get here, I'm going to take Jordan Love and just feel really solid with my quarterback room and really build out that starting lineup that full of guys that I'm super stoked about. So really good start here, and now we're going to look just to round out the roster a little bit. We do only have 3 running backs, so I kind of want to prioritize getting another one here on the roster if we can. Taking a look here, in general, Tyjae Spears would be a great pick for me. However, Brian Thomas is a guy that I've risen on a ton. He's got a ton of upside, and just more and more I want to leave a lot of my drafts with him. I know I already have Evan Ingram, but I'm not going to shy away from taking a super explosive, high upside rookie this late in the draft just because I have my tight end on the same team. So Brian Thomas is absolutely going to be my selection here. Love taking him right here. And hopefully Tyjae Spears can fall to us. We didn't get lucky with that. And then we saw a couple other running backs go off the board like Zeke. Looking at the running back position here, I'm probably going to take Blake Corum just because I've got Kyren Williams. Being able to get him without really reaching on him is something that I want to try and do if I can. If I take Kyren, just because it's a really free insurance policy, should be really good if something were to happen to Kyren. You're just going to sleep a lot better at night with him on your roster. So we go Corum there. We've got 3 selections left to make. Again, drafting this early in a mock, I'm not going to draft a kicker or a defense just because you wouldn't do that if you can avoid doing so on your platform. You want to take these like backup running backs, see if you're going to get an injury to one of the starters ahead of them before the start of the season. So looking at the options here, I'm probably just going to hyper target the running back position, try and build out some extra depth. The guys that are handcuffs that we'll learn a lot about before the start of the year. Jalen Wright, personal favorite of mine. There are 2 guys potentially ahead of him that could go down that would open up a massive opportunity for him. And I think he's a really good player and obviously a really good system. Beyond that, if we look at the other options here, I think that Tyler Algier absolutely needs to be considered as a high-end handcuff. He's someone that I think could be a top 10 running back if something were to happen to Bijan. We can't just ignore that. He's a guy with a ton of upside. We've seen him get it done before, and if something were to happen to Bijan before the start of the season, it'd be super easy to just keep Algier, and if maybe Bijan doesn't get hurt, you just drop Algier at the start of the year and accept that you'll have to pick him up off waivers. And the last guy I'm going to pick up here, Jaleel McLaughlin. I just wanted to highlight him as well. He's rising for me a little bit, especially in full PPR. Outsnapped Javonte Williams this last week with the starters. I think that this is going to be an offense in Denver that's going to want to really be more pass heavy than we're anticipating, but it's going to be a lot of short area passes, really quick dump downs. They're really going to try and get the ball out of Bo Nix's hands fast. And that's going to play right into the skill set of Jaleel McLaughlin, who I think in a PPR format could absolutely end up being really solid for us. Could easily catch 60 passes this year. I think he is the clear passing down back in this offense. He's a guy Sean Payton likes. Samaje Perine seems like the clear backup there to McLaughlin, and I think there's a chance for him to potentially sprinkle into some more early down work as well, with Javonte not really impressing so far. So I really like this roster. I'd be super stoked if I ended my draft with this team. So whoever asked for this one, I highly recommend you follow this mold if you can. I think this is going to be a really great squad for you. To summarize, we've got Jordan Love at quarterback to go with Kyren Williams, Isaiah Pacheco, James Cook, and then Blake Corum, Jalen Wright, Tyler Algier, and Jaleel McLaughlin at running back. So a lot of handcuffs following 3 really solid starters. At receiver, we've got Jamar Chase, Jalen Waddle, Tank Dell, Calvin Ridley, Deontay Johnson, and Brian Thomas. So a really solid wide receiver room. Then we've got Evan Ingram at tight end, who's just going to be a nice stabilizing force for this roster. So I love this team. If you guys have any comments, want to give me any feedback as well, let me know how you thought I did on this draft. Really fun doing these for us, and we're going to get into some ESPN and Yahoo mock drafts here coming up. If you guys have any more specific requests, let me know in the comments below. I'll do my best to get to all of them as well so that you guys can have something to go off of going into your draft season. So yeah, a lot of fun. If you guys want to make sure you don't miss any of the future content, there will be at least 4 videos a week throughout the entire rest of the season. I'm going to be here all year long to help you guys win your league. Just make sure you subscribe to the channel. It's going to be all free. I'll be here doing as much as I can to help you guys dominate your league this season. On top of that, if you made it this far in the video, please do just give me a quick thumbs up. It helps with the algorithm, which helps me know that I'm doing a good job and all that. And yeah, really appreciate you guys. It's super cool that you guys are tuning into all this, and super stoked for football. We're just a couple weeks away. So yeah, I'll catch you with this one, guys. Peace. Thank you guys for watching. If you haven't already, please be sure to subscribe to the channel, like the video, check out these other videos here if you haven't. If you want more content, please feel free to follow me on Twitter at RealSteelFFB. I'll be more active on there as the season goes on. Thanks. Catch you later.